Welcome to John's Maths book. In this video, we're going to look at how to rationalize the denominator of a fraction where the denominator is an irrational number. So why do we want to do this in the first place? Well, if we have an irrational number in the denominator, it's difficult to divide it into the numerator. So let's take a look at an example of how we do this. So we have 2 divided by the square root of 2. Now, the square root of 2, as we know, is an irrational number. So we want to eliminate the irrational number from the denominator. So how do we do this? So to do it, we multiply, in this case, the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2. So 2 divided by square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. So that is 2 multiplied by the square root of 2 divided by, now when we multiply the square root of 2 by the square root of 2, that gives the value of 2. And then we have 2 multiplied by the square root of 2 divided by 2. The 2's are eliminated and we're left with the square root of 2. So let's take a look at a second example where we have 3 divided by the square root of 3 plus 1. Now in this case we can't eliminate the irrational number in the denominator by multiplying by the square root of 3. So we have to do something different here. So what we do is we multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator, which leaves a difference of 2 squares in the denominator. So let's see how we do that. So we have 3 divided by square root of 3 plus 1. Then we multiply that by the conjugate of the denominator. Now the conjugate is the square root of 3 minus 1. So in the numerator we have square root of 3 minus 1, and in the denominator we have the square root of 3 minus 1. So let's multiply out the numerator, and it leaves 3 into square root of 3 minus 1. And then in the denominator we have to multiply this out. So we multiply the square root of 3 by the square root of 3, and that leaves 3. Multiply the square root of 3 by minus 1, and that gives minus square root of 3. And then we have 1 multiplied by square root of 3, that gives plus square root of 3. And we have 1 multiplied by minus 1, which gives minus 1. So this equals, so the numerator is 3 multiplied by the square root of 3 minus 1 divided by, now as we can see here we've got a minus square root of 3 and a plus square root of 3. So minus square root of 3 plus square root of 3 cancel each other out to give 0. So we're left with 3 minus 1, which is 2. So that's the answer. So in our third example, we have the root of 5 divided by the square of 2 plus 1. So we need to eliminate the irrational number in the denominator. So to do it, we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator, such that the denominator is the difference of 2 squares. So the conjugate of the denominator in this case is square root of 2 minus 1. So let's do that. So we get the root of 5 multiplied by root 2 minus 1, and that's divided by root 2 plus 1 multiplied by root 2 minus 1. So this equals root 5 into root 2 minus 1 divided by, now we multiply these out, so we have Root 2 multiplied by root 2 leaves 2. Root 2 times minus 1 gives minus root 2. Then we have 1 times root 2 gives plus root 2. And we have 1 times minus 1 gives minus 1. So this leaves root 5 multiplied by root 2 minus 1 divided by. Now in the denominator we have a minus root 2 and a plus root 2. So they effectively cancel each other out. And then we're left with 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is just 1. So the answer is root 5 into root 2 minus 1. So let's look at a couple of more complicated examples now. We have, in our first, we have the square root of 5 plus 2 divided by the square root of 5 minus 1. So we want to rationalize the denominator here. So we need to multiply numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of the denominator is root 5 plus 1. So we need to do that to numerator and denominator. So let's go ahead and do that. So this becomes root 5 plus 2 multiplied by the conjugate of the denominator. So it's root 5 plus 1 divided by root 5 minus 1 multiplied by root 5 plus 1. So that in the denominator we complete the square in order to eliminate the irrational number. So we need to multiply numerator and denominator out now. So root 5 times root 5 gives 5. Root 5 times 1 gives plus root 5. And then we have 2 multiplied by root 5, which gives 2 root 5. And we have 2 multiplied by 1, which gives 2. So that's the numerator. So the denominator, we multiply that out, and we have root 5 multiplied by root 5, leaves 5. We have root 5 multiplied by 1, that gives root 5. Then we have minus 1 times root 5, that gives minus root 5. And we have minus 1 times plus 1, which is equal to minus 1. So let's see what we're left with in the numerator and the denominator. So we have root 5 and 2 root 5. That will give 3 root 5. And we have a 5 plus 2. That will give 7. So in the numerator we have 3 root 5 plus 7. And in the denominator we have 5 minus 1, which is 4. And we have root 5 minus root 5, which is 0. So that's what we're left with, 3 root 5 plus 7 divided by 4. So let's take a look at example number 2, which is a little more complicated again. So we have 9 minus 2 root 3 divided by root 3 plus 6. We want to rationalize the denominator here, so remove the irrational number root 3 from the denominator. So again, we apply the same principles of multiplying numerator and denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of the denominator is root 3 minus 6. So let's do that. So 9 minus 2 root 3 multiplied by the conjugate of the denominator. root 3 minus 6. And that's all divided by root 3 plus 6 multiplied by root 3 minus 6. So let's multiply the numerator and the denominator out. So starting with the numerator, we have 9 times root 3, which is 9 root 3. 9 times minus 6 is minus 54. Then we have minus 2 root 3 times times root 3. So in this case, the root 3's will, when we multiply those two together, it becomes 3. So then we're left with 2 times 3, or minus 2 times 3, which becomes minus 6. And then we have minus 2 root 3 multiplied by minus 6. So that will give plus minus 2 root 3 times minus 6 gives plus 12 root 3. And that's divided by, so root 3 times root 3 is 3. Root 3 times minus 6 is minus 6 root 3. And 6 multiplied by root 3 is plus 6 root 3. And plus 6 times minus 6 is minus 36. So let's tidy up the numerator and the denominator. So this becomes, so we have a 12 root 3 and a 9 root 3. So that becomes 21 root 3. And we have a minus 54 and a minus 6. So that becomes minus 60. And that's divided by, so minus 6 root 3 and plus 6 root 3 cancel each other out. And we have a 3 minus 36, which leaves minus 33. So we can divide 3 into the numerator and the denominator in this case, and that'll simplify it further. So 3 into 21 goes 7 times multiplied by root 3, and then minus, and 3 into 60, that leaves 20, divided by 3 into 33, 3 into minus 33 goes minus 11. So that's your answer. So that concludes this video on rationalizing the denominator of a fraction. If you like these videos, then please like, subscribe, share, and also comment as usual.